Just one second. I'm just. Can I? Is it there?
Yeah, yeah, it's there.
Yes, yes, it is visible. Go ahead, Ashish.
Okay. Is the slideshow come?
No, just start the slide. So
Uh, just one second. I'm not able to.
go in
You
the
can control.
Full screen mode.
full screen mode. There is slide. So here in the upper part.
Yeah, it is the yes. Is it come? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll just begin now. Everything we have learned. So I'm just going about the newer developments. Being the last talk, I thought I'll just try to be focusing on the newer developments. So this is entirely a different talk of what we have heard in the last two from the last two speakers. This time I'm a nephrologist, so I'll be speaking looking at only at the kidneys and what is new in the management of diabetic nephropathy. So once we begin, like what is the treatment goal of diabetic nephropathy? This is very important. We have to have an early identification of diabetes. Then second is prevention of progression of diabetic nephropathy in people who are diagnosed with diabetic nephropathy. In this, there are two major things. First is the rate of decline of reducing the rate of decline of GFR and reduction of proteinuria. These are the two common, two major factors which you have to treat. The third is prevention of complications which are commonly associated with diabetic nephropathy. Most of importantly is cardiovascular. Obviously, ophthalmic and peripheral vascular diseases are there. So these are the basic treatment goals of diabetic nephropathy. So what do we know till now? So what actually works in diabetic nephropathy? What we know is through UKPDS DCCT trial, diabetes control works. Hypertension control works. UKPDS showed how good blood pressure control even works better than diabetes control in patients with type 2 diabetes. Proteinuria reduction. Lot of studies showing proteinuria reduction can act like a surrogate of diabetic nephropathy. Proteinuria reduction helps in reducing the rate of decline of kidney dysfunction. Avoiding nephrotoxics, especially NSAIDs, radiocontrast dyes. Judicious use of diuretics, as we have learned. If you use too much of loop diuretics, it causes intravascular dehydration and lead to renal injury, pre-renal component. Then reducing salt intake, healthy lifestyle, what we have learned. Importantly, weight reduction, what has been told by the last speaker. And obviously, people who smoke, they should quit smoking. So this is basically what we know works for diabetic. Now, since 2000, after renal trial, an IDNT trial, there were a lot of trials which we tried, but unfortunately, we had a lot of negative trials until we came to the last 4 or 5 years where with the advent of SGLT2 and other things, that we have found something, a new ray of hope. By the time I passed out when we were students till 2015, 14 and 15, there was hardly any good news from the kidney perspective. Every trial turned out to be negative. But then there was a hope. So what are the new developments which have happened in the last 5 years? There are 3 drugs which I would like to, which I'm very happy to say. One of them is SGLT2 inhibitors, what we have learned in great detail in this conference. Then other is GLP-1 receptor agonist. And third is mineralocorticoid receptor antagonist. They have been there for a long time, but of late, we have noticed their renal protective mechanism. So these are 3 types of drugs which I will speak about in the renal protection. This was discussed in the session that how the cardiovascular prevention was there. Along with that, it has been discussed in detail how SGLT2 inhibitors act, and they are not only produce good cardiovascular outcomes, but also renal outcomes, and they are interlinked. So, but we have to see that initial studies that happened with SGLT2 inhibitors were basically they were shown as a diabetic drug, and because of the previous experience with diabetic drug causing excess cardiovascular mortality, the thiazolidines, so therefore they were required to have a cardiovascular benefit. They had to prove a cardiovascular benefit. Surprisingly, we found that the SGLT2 had instead of being cardio neutral, they were cardio benefit. They were showing cardiovascular decrease in cardiovascular death. Subsequently, all the trials, many trials came, EMPA-REG outcome, Canvas, Declare, they all showed basically they were diabetes, they were showing a reduction in major adverse cardiovascular events. And the renal outcomes, when they analyzed for the renal outcomes, they also found that the kidneys were also getting saved. So most of the subjects had no or early diabetic nephropathy. So basically, they were populations was type 2 diabetes with high cardiovascular risk, but they also found that the kidneys were also getting their renal outcomes were better. So this is the 3 trials, Declare, TIMI, Canvas, and EMPA-REG, where they showed that you can see the yellow. Yeah. So in less than 10% or up to 20-25% had people with GFR less than 60. And so most of the people had early or no renal involvement. And if you look on the left hand side, the Canvas, EMPA-REG, and Declare TIMI, they were usually in the green zone of the albuminuria and the GFR category. So they were people with very low renal risk, and yet they showed benefit. But then once they realized and they analyzed the outcomes, the renal outcomes, then they said what happens to these drugs if they are given to people with established diabetic nephropathy. And then came the trial Credence and DAPA-CKD and EMPA-KIDNEY, which result is still pending. But we have results of Credence and DAPA-CKD, which showed, basically this is for empagliflozin. So which showed that renal outcomes are better. Now again, this empagliflozin, that you can see, the trials showed that most of the patients, only around 15 or 8%, 8% would be in the very high risk category and 15 would be in the high risk category. And yet they showed across KDO categories that there was a renal benefit. So this is what it showed. Empagliflozin had a significantly reduced renal outcomes. But then came the trials in established diabetic nephropathy, Credence and DAPA-CKD. So if you can see here, you can see the Credence trial. The Credence trial, the majority of them have got a renal, so majority of them have got a renal, either have got a low GFR or proteinuria more than 300 milligrams. So this is the Credence trial, and this trial was stopped early because of overwhelming renal benefit. So this was one of the few trials which was made with the primary outcomes being renal. And again, carnoflozin was superior to placebo in improving glycemic control and reducing adverse renal events among type 2 diabetes and established CKD. It also, at the same time, it also reduced the cardiovascular events. So then came the DAPA-CKD. For a nephrologist, DAPA-CKD is extremely important because they not only included diabetic but proteinuric subjects. As you know, people with high proteinuria tend to do very, very poorly. So again, DAPA-CKD, diabetics as well as non-diabetic, they were taken, and primary endpoints were renal, 50% decline in GFR, end-stage renal disease, or renal or cardiovascular death. And what we saw, excellent renal as well as cardiovascular outcomes, all statistically significant. And based on these 2 trials, the kidney disease improving global outcome, this is 2020 October, they have come up with the recommendations. So now use of SGLT2 inhibitors has become a 1A category recommendation. So people who are meeting individualized targets, they can be put on apart from metformin. If it is only controlled with metformin, and if we can still add an SGLT2 inhibitor, we should add. And if they require a second agent, it should be an SGLT2 inhibitor unless contraindicated. So any person with GFR more than 30, we recommend treating patients with SGLT2 inhibitor. So they also mentioned that once it is initiated, it is reasonable to continue even if GFR falls to less than 30 until the patient goes into dialysis. So as we know, as we learned from the pathophysiology, that SGLT2 inhibitors act via kidney, but even when the GFR falls less than 30, their effects, good effects are persistent and even they continue till the time the GFR falls less than 15. So once started, even the GFR continues to fall, you should continue. So one caveat is that once you start SGLT2, we do notice sometimes what we call a reversible decrease in GFR. So this is typically what happens when we start a person on SGLT2 inhibitor, that there would be a fall in GFR. But if we follow them up subsequently, they will continue to do better. So initial fall in GFR should not be taken as a reason to stop an SGLT2 inhibitor. We have to continue following them. Next comes the second drug, which is GLP-1 receptor agonist and diabetic nephropathy. So what we have learned, it has got direct as well as indirect effect. And again, like SGLT2, it has got beneficial effect on both heart as well as the kidneys. So this was the Lancet Diabetes Endocrinology meta-analysis of 7 trials of multiple GLP receptor agonists and showed that it is a wonderful cardiac drug. It reduces major cardiovascular events. But what we also know that GLP receptors are also present in the kidney and they also lead to renal protection. So this was the outcomes of the GLP receptor agonist. And in this, they looked at the renal side, the secondary endpoints, which are the renal side effects. Most of them, obviously, the primary outcome was major cardiovascular. But again, when they looked at the kidney outcomes, they found that some of them did show a reduction, a significant reduction in proteinuria. So, again, in that, so they came to the conclusion that treatment with GLP receptor agonist has a beneficial effect on cardiovascular mortality and kidney outcomes in patients with type 2 diabetes. So broad kidney outcomes, that is development of new onset macroglossia, decline in GFR, and progression to ESRD, was reduced by 17% with the use of GLP-RA. But again, it's a caveat. These groups, the primary endpoints are largely driven by reduction in albuminuria. Excluding decreased albuminuria, the association of GLP receptor with kidney endpoints was not significant. So whether it just reduces proteinuria and cardiovascular outcomes, or whether it also helps in reducing the rate of GFR, the final word is still not out. The good thing about the GLP receptor is some of them, especially glutide, can be used in patients with advanced CKD up till the time they reach on dialysis. So again, now there was a study in which they compared, this is 2021 from Yamada. So he compared whether SGLT2 is better or GLP-1 receptor agonists are better. So again, with respect to GLP, a major cardiovascular event, obviously the SGLT2 inhibitor, it is crossing the point of unity, so they may be equal. But from the renal standpoint, SGLT2 perform better than GLP receptor agonist. So then people have started wondering whether we should combine SGLT2 inhibitor and GLP receptor agonist. Obviously, what we want will depend. So if you are wanting a major cardiovascular reduction, both SGLT2 inhibitor and GLP-RA have got effect. For obesity reduction, GLP-RA is preferred for better weight reduction, but SGLT2 also has a weight reduction effect. For diabetic kidney progression, SGLT2 inhibitors fare better, but a combination with GLP-1RA will help in reduction of proteinuria when added to SGLT2. Heart failure hospitalization, the only effect has been seen with SGLT2 inhibitors. So based on this, the KDIGO has said the first line of therapy should be metformin and SGLT2 inhibitor, but if you have to add, GLP-1 receptor agonist should be preferred. The only side effect of GLP receptor agonist is GI. And in India, for some reason, many people are fixed with GI side effects, and many of them tend not to follow, and they discontinue the drug because of GI side effects. Then come the third drug, the mineral receptor antagonist in diabetic nephropathy. We have been using mineralocorticoid receptor antagonists for almost a century now. multiple trials showing benefit in cardiovascular mortality, but some of them, like TopCat, which was given with people with preserved ejection fraction, was a negative trial. But since 2016, we knew that if you combine with renal with ACE inhibitor or ARB, aldosterone antagonist would reduce the proteinuria as well as control the blood pressure. However, the major problem was the presence of hyperkalemia, especially when the GFR started to reduce. So therefore, hyperkalemia prevented the full use of aldosterone antagonist. So then came the newer mineralocorticoid receptor antagonist. This is the third generation which have come. So they are preferred because one, they are much more effective, and two, they cause less hyperkalemia. So one of them which has been well studied is finronone. So this was one study, and exacerenone. Please, I may not be able to pronounce that word very properly. So what it showed was that it does help in reduction of protein leakage from the kidney. So 58% reduction in urine albumin creatinine ratio was seen with this drug. Again, another drug which makes us very excited is the Fidelto DKD trial. So it was like Fidelto and Figaro DKD. They are running hand in hand. In the DKD trial, the composite endpoint is the primary efficacy is renal. The secondary endpoints are cardiac. In Figaro DKD, the composite endpoint is cardiovascular, and secondary endpoints are renal. And they're looking at eGFR slope, new onset atrial fibrillation, new onset heart failure, regression of proteinuria, and quality of life. And basically, if you look at the patient characteristic, they are taking people who have got reduced renal function and high protein. So most of the people whom they have recruited were high risk of cardiovascular and renal progression. And what did they find? So this NAGM study showed clearly that it was a positive study in which the primary endpoints were achieved. The renal dysfunction was achieved. In the same time, the albumin creatinine ratio reduced in the treatment arm. So this is what it was. People were given finronone versus placebo, 2.6-year medium follow-up. Again, renal point, primary outcomes, renal failure with 40% decrease in GFR over a 4-week or a death from renal causes was statistically reduced with the use of finronone. Even at the same time, the cardiovascular events were lesser. So obviously, this has also made, this is the one large randomized control trial, but I think further studies will be coming, and this may be an important armamentarium in the hands of nephrologists to not only reduce proteinuria, but renal endpoints. So this is the summary of the Fidelto DKD trial. So what is the current place of a receptor antagonist in diabetic nephropathy? So blocking aldosterone may be particularly useful with resistant hypertension without a history of high potassium and GFR more than 45. Among people with GFR with 25 to 45, you may have to add a petaremer or a GI cation exchanger compared with placebo, and it can be used. However, the clinical benefits and harms are not known. Whether newer non-steroidal mineralocorticoid receptor may provide benefit with fewer side effects is an area of ongoing research. So still they have not accepted it, but I think with fewer trials, they may be happening. So coming back, what we began with. So treatment of diabetic nephropathy, what works? Diabetes control, yes, SGLT2 inhibitors and GLP receptor agonists. Hypertension control, SGLT2 inhibitors, mineralocorticoid receptor antagonists. Proteinuria reduction, all three drugs will work. Again, weight reduction, GLP receptor agonists and SGLT inhibitors will work. So major points in which diabetic nephropathy works, all these drugs have found to be have a positive outcomes. Again, the treatment goals, SGLT inhibitors and receptor antagonists reduce the rate of decline in GFR. They also cause reduction in proteinuria. GLP receptor agonist, as of date, is known to reduce proteinuria. Whether it affects the rate of decline of GFR is unknown. And all three of them have got cardiovascular benefit. And this is very, very important because 9 out of 10 patients with diabetic nephropathy will die before they reach dialysis because of cardiovascular events. And preventing cardiovascular events and consequent cardiorenal event goes a long way in preserving these patients for a better life. So concluding my talk, management of diabetic nephropathy is changing rapidly with new drugs in the armamentarium. They are now useful in preventing diabetes, diabetic nephropathy, controlling established disease, as well as decreasing complication, mainly cardiovascular. Whether combination therapy will yield additive benefits is an area of active research. Long-term consequences and side effects will have to be monitored. Especially, I'm worried about India, where we are seeing a lot of multi-drug resistant UTIs, and SGLT2 inhibitors can increase in UTIs. So that is one way we have to tread with little caution, considering that it is now a 1A indication. So we have to be cautious and monitor the urinary tract infection. I think that's for today. Being the last talk, I trying to finish in time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Ashish. I think excellent talk again. And really, you have gave some